Yo, you sit over here. You sit over here, brother. Yo, you better watch out. Hey, brother. This is my brother, bro. Okay? Hey, come on, chill. Come with me, okay? Okay. You, get out the car. Out the car. Okay?
Calm down, he's
Get out the car.
I gotta go to the hospital, my leg.
Yeah, we gonna get you to the hospital.
The King Von murder files have now been made public, unveiling body cam footage from the night he died. Yet, instead of closure, the footage exposed hidden secrets and glaring gaps in the official story surrounding his death. Even King Von's cousin Bo stepped forward with revelations that added more layers to the mystery.
Security guard let him walk. You get paid he get paid to protect. How the f you let him walk over and fight? You ain't even supposed to let him fight. He ain't supposed to be touching nobody. Security guard, if anything, you make sure Quando them leave. Whoever else they was with, you make sure they leave. How you let him walk over somebody that's the reason y'all here, the reason everybody in this parking lot here, because this man right here making the money and y'all his entourage. But that security guard, it's unfishy with him. That's why he deleted his Instagram. I definitely feel like it's foul play. I don't know where it's coming from, but I definitely feel like it's some weird shit going on.
The day after his Instagram was deleted by security, King Von vanished without a trace, sparking fears that crucial evidence might surface. Many have pointed out glaring inconsistencies in the official account of his death, suggesting that if you dig deeper, the truth might be quite the opposite. Some even speculate that Von could have staged his own death, especially with multiple murder cases looming over him. After King Von died, he was implicated as the mastermind behind FBG Duck's murder, allegedly paying Oblak members $100,000 and Diamond Oblak chains to carry out the hit, along with involvement in several other Chicago killings. As detailed in Trap Lore Ross's King Von documentary, insiders revealed that Von survived 2 surgeries but woke up screaming for his firearm, then went into shock and passed away before his final surgery. King Von made it through 2 surgeries. He had 3 more to go. After the second surgery, he actually hopped off the bed, started fighting the nurse, and demanded to know where his gun was. Shortly after, he went into shock and passed away. According to the nurse, Von's mother didn't even know what was happening at the hospital while she was there. This means King Von was still alive after being shot and was conscious enough to fight the nurse. With this new info, many are now wondering how Boosie knew 2 years ago that Von didn't have a firearm during the incident.
Like you said, the King Von situation, like there was absolutely no reason for Von to be rolling around with that dude. Like there was no, especially since he had security, like, you know, someone should have jumped in. It should never even.
King Von
I almost feel like, but I almost feel like if you have real security,
all of them is supposed to blast. I feel like they would have been more ready in Chicago.
Sad, man, sad. I mean, the whole King Von thing is really kind of hanging over everyone right now.
That f***ed me up, bro. Because I like King Von.
But when you dig deeper into King Von's passing, holes in the official story start to appear, revealing a more complex truth. On November 5, 2020, Von and his crew went to a club in Atlanta for an album release party, a night meant to celebrate his success and bright future in music. However, the night ended in tragedy. Coming from a dangerous neighborhood like Oblak, Von was well aware he had enemies and the risk of running into his ops was high. Because of this, whenever he made public appearances, his security was tight-rolling deep with a team of 25 members to keep him safe.
Travel with one security that moves with Von, and he traveled with 2 more security. You know what I'm saying? Von traveled in a proof truck, and not only that, his guys are security, man. He travels with 10 to 15 guys daily. They protect and love Von more than any security would. We're like, I think we're about 8-10 cars deep, 20-25 on entourage.
Although later that night, things changed when Von started acting out and put his life at risk. When the party ended around 2 a.m., everyone was supposed to head back to their hotels as usual. But Von switched up the plan once he got in his car. Everyone expected to leave the club and head to the hotel or Airbnb. That was the normal routine. However, Von decided to go to an after-hours spot that wasn't officially paid for and that no one on the team was aware of or had approved. It was a complete solo decision by Von. His driver was instructed to head to another club called Monaco, which caused Von to separate from his team for a while. Everyone else drove to the Airbnb as planned, but Von went to the venue alone. Later, they got calls from people in the caravans. DJ even called and said, "Hey, we're here by ourselves. Where are you guys at?" Once Von arrived at Monaco, The rest of the group rerouted there after learning about the change in plans from those still in the vehicle had changed as the rest of the team took U-turns and headed to Monaco. But the weird thing is that once Van's manager got to Monaco, he knew something was off with King Von, because he was sitting in the truck completely silent and waited for 30 minutes. For some reason, Van wasn't himself. This man is, like, I promise you, the best artist I ever moved in my life. But that night, it was different. He stayed in the car for like 30 to 35 minutes. Van finally agreed to go into the club, but before he could, Van's security had to check the club and make sure it was safe. The bad thing about his security doing this is that Monaco has a no firearm rule, meaning most of his team left their firearms in their cars. I went to the car he was in. I was like, yo Von. Went inside the passenger seat. I'm like, yo Von, bro, what's going on? Like everybody here. Wait, let's go. He was like, alright, let's go. We're telling security, hey, it's time to go in now. Von's ready. You know what I'm saying? We've been here too long. Let's go inside the club. They check the venue, go inside, check the outside. Make sure there's no but the danger was out in the parking lot because one of King Von's members noticed Quando Rando and his team inside a white SUV. As he ran back to tell King Von the information. Now right before we go inside the club, one of his homeboys came to the car and said, ... Hey, so-and-so's here. And Von just jumped up like, oh, come on, let's go. Almost instantly, Von jumped out the truck and ran to confront Quando Rando. Von's team tried to get him to chill out, but he didn't care. As Von went around the front of the white SUV and began swinging on Quando, Quando jumped out the car. By the time Von jumped out, I don't even think he knew where so-and-so was. He just jumped out the car, bumped into so-and-so, and as soon as he bumped into him, they started brawling. With Quando getting worked by Von. King Von and Quando's fight quickly turned deadly when Lil Tim, Quando's best friend, pulled out a firearm and unloaded his clip at Von, hitting him 4 times and wounding Von's manager in the leg. Almost immediately, the remaining members of Von's crew who were still armed retaliated, forcing Lil Tim to fall to the ground a few feet away. However, the chaos drew the attention of nearby police officers, who arrived on the scene and opened fire on both sides. The gunfire tragically struck and killed one of King Von's crew members. Amidst the chaos, King Von and Quando were both lying on the street, but witnesses claimed Von was holding Quando as a shield to protect himself. There were conflicting reports about whether Von was trying to take Quando's chain, but many who were close to the scene said Von wasn't wearing any jewelry at the time. Instead, it seemed Von was holding onto Quando firmly, almost like trying to keep him from escaping, despite his own injuries. Once the gunfire ceased and the chaos settled, the race to save King Von began. The race to save King Von began in the chaotic aftermath of gunfire that erupted outside a downtown Atlanta nightclub. The night had started with celebration, laughter, and good energy, but in an instant, everything spiraled into confusion, fear, and desperation. As bullets flew and people scattered in all directions, King Von's closest friend, Mook, moved without hesitation. Driven by loyalty and adrenaline, he darted into the street, weaving through the chaos and danger. Seeing his friend lying on the ground, Mook pushed Quando Rando aside, an act that some would later call both brave and reckless. But in that moment, Mook wasn't thinking about risks or rivalries. His only concern was Von. Blood soaked through Von's white tee, but his eyes were open, and he was trying to sit up. Mook dropped beside him, his hands trembling as he tried to assess the wounds, then gently lifted Von, supporting his weight with everything he had. Come on, bro, I got you, Mook murmured as he helped Von to his feet. Another friend swung open the back door of their car, a dark vehicle parked hastily on the curb, together they eased Von into the back seat. He winced but didn't cry out. Through the pain, Von stayed quiet, breathing hard, gritting his teeth. Meanwhile, Quando and his entourage piled into their own white SUV, shouting directions to the driver. They too raced toward the hospital, the reality of what had just occurred setting in as sirens wailed in the distance and phone screens lit up with breaking news. Both vehicles disappeared into the night, speeding toward different fates. Back in Von's car, his friends shouted over each other. Some trying to give directions to the hospital, others frantically calling people to tell them what happened. The driver swerved through red lights, barely avoiding collisions. But amid the chaos, Von sat upright in the back seat. His breathing labored but his voice calm. Despite being hit 4 times, twice in the chest, once in the side, and another grazing his leg. Vaughn remained conscious and remarkably composed. "I'm good, bro. I'm good," he kept repeating, like a mantra, as if by sheer willpower, he could keep death at bay. One of the people in the car would later recall that moment with disbelief. "He wasn't screaming, he wasn't freaking out," the friend said. "He was trying to keep us calm." Another friend, who had been on the verge of a panic attack, was comforted directly by Vaughn himself. "I wasn't in the car at the time," he said, but the guy who was panicking got comforted by Vaughn, who told him, "Hey, calm down, we're gonna be all right. Don't panic now." It was surreal. Here was a man who had just taken multiple bullets, who had every reason to be terrified, somehow managing to console others. It was a reflection of who Vaughn had always been to those closest to him: strong, protective, and selfless in moments when it mattered most. As they pulled into the emergency entrance of Grady Memorial Hospital, doors flew open. Medical staff rushed out with a stretcher, and Vaughn was quickly transferred onto it. Moop held his hand until the very last moment, watching helplessly as the ER doors swung closed behind the gurney. The red and white lights flashed across Moop's face as he stood there, blood on his clothes, praying. Inside the hospital, doctors worked quickly, battling against time and internal damage. Vaughn was still conscious when he entered the trauma bay, giving the staff just enough hope to try everything. But his condition deteriorated rapidly as the minutes passed. His injuries, though not immediately fatal on the surface, had caused more internal bleeding than even he had let on. The strength he'd shown in the car had been his final gift to his friends. Outside, word spread quickly. Phones buzzed non-stop. Friends, family, and fans gathered outside the hospital, some crying, others silent in disbelief. It didn't feel real. Just hours before, they had been turning up, celebrating, laughing. Now they were staring at the emergency room doors, praying he'd walk back out of them. But he never did. The energy of that ride to the hospital, the chaos, the courage, the final reassurances would remain burned into the memories of those who were with him. It became part of his legend. Not just the music, not just the streets, but those final moments when he showed what kind of person he truly was. Vaughn had always said he was built different, and in those last minutes, even as he bled and faded, he proved it. "Slow down, chill, I'm going to be good, just get me to the hospital." Those were some of the last words King Von said, according to the people who were with him in the car that night. Even after being shot multiple times, his voice was calm, steady, almost like he was just trying to reassure everyone else. His friends said he didn't sound scared. He didn't scream. He didn't cry. He just kept telling them to relax and focus on getting him medical help. And honestly, from the way he was carrying himself after the incident, they all believed he'd be okay. There was something in Vaughn's tone, in his demeanor even, as blood stained his shirt and pooled beneath him, that made it seem like this was just a setback, not a life-threatening emergency. "He was chillin'," one of them said later. "It was like he was more worried about us than himself." The car sped through the dark Atlanta streets, running red lights, swerving around traffic. Sirens in the distance, but none close enough. Inside the vehicle, the tension was suffocating. People were shouting over one another, some crying, others just trying to stay focused. But Vaughn remained grounded, almost unnervingly so, like he already knew how things were going to play out, and had made peace with it. When they finally pulled up to Grady Memorial Hospital, medical staff were already waiting. They had received a call ahead of time that a high-profile gunshot victim was en route. The doors flew open, and Vaughn was lifted out of the car and rushed inside, still conscious. Still clinging to life, his friends stayed outside, pacing the sidewalks, making frantic phone calls, praying, trying to keep hope alive. Some didn't even fully grasp what had just happened. Just moments ago, they had been hanging out, laughing, living life the way young artists on the rise often do. Now they were standing outside an emergency room, hoping the man they saw as invincible could survive the unthinkable. Inside, Vaughn was taken straight into surgery. Doctors fought to stabilize him, to stop the internal bleeding, to give him a chance, but the injuries were extensive. The bullets had done more damage than anyone realized. His vital signs began to falter. Despite their best efforts, the medical team couldn't save him. King Von was pronounced dead in the operating room, a little more than an hour after the shooting. The news hit like a punch to the gut. At first, those closest to him didn't believe it. How could he be gone? He was just talking, just smiling, just telling everyone to calm down. His energy had still been there. His presence had still felt strong. But within moments, it vanished, and in its place was a silence that no one was ready for. As word began to spread, phones rang non-stop, Twitter exploded with rumors and half-truths. Fans and fellow artists alike flooded social media with posts, some praying for a miracle, others already mourning. Within hours, the news was confirmed by law enforcement of the 3 people who had died in the early morning violence. One of them was rapper King Von. The confirmation sent shockwaves through the music industry. Von wasn't just another rising star, he was the rising star. With a gritty real-life narrative and an unmistakable storytelling voice, he had rapidly built a loyal fanbase. His debut album, Welcome to O'Block, had dropped just a week before the shooting and was already climbing the charts. He was on the brink of something bigger than musica, full-on cultural movement. Now, that momentum was frozen in place, interrupted by gun violence that had claimed yet another young black artist far too soon. Celebrities, collaborators, and fans across the country shared their disbelief and heartbreak. Rappers who had grown up alongside him or looked up to him posted tributes. Some expressed their sorrow in tearful live streams, others posted throwback photos and emotional captions. The industry was mourning not just a rapper, but a brother, a friend, a father, a son. Chicago, Von's hometown, was especially devastated. He had become a symbol of hope to many in his neighborhood. Even though his lyrics reflected a harsh reality, they were also filled with ambition, loyalty, and the determination to rise above his circumstances. Von had made it out, but he never left his people behind. He was always giving back, always showing love. In the days following his death, fans gathered at murals, lit candles, played his music from their cars, and shared memories. Online, the grief was deep, and so was the anger at the violence, at the senselessness of it all, at how many times this story had already played out before. King Von's death wasn't just another tragic headline, it was a painful reminder of the fragility of life, especially in a world where success doesn't guarantee safety. For those who knew him, he was more than a rapper. He was a real one, he was a fighter. He was someone who, even in his last moments, was thinking about others. Chicago, who was here last night with friends. 2 groups of individuals got into a physical altercation. That physical altercation escalated into an exchange of gunfire, with this going viral online. Lil Tim did his first interview, speaking about Van's death. To know, like I was just protecting my little brother. When you did finally find out that it was King Von who, how do you feel? I was like, damn, if Brian didn't do that stupid last night, he still would have been alive. That's how I was. But I was like, I ain't no type of person. Double quote Sam. Like I'm a humble person. I ain't no disrespect to like his mama saying like that, cause I could easily get on that type of stuff and be clout chasing type. Like I ain't no that type. I'm a humble person. But it's like they ain't never popped that off. That would have never happened like that. Lil Tim survived his injuries at the hospital, and the following day he was arrested and charged for Van's passing. However, the charges would quickly be dropped after Tim's lawyers claimed he acted in self-defense, although Dirk and Oblak, COULDN, single quotes T, just let Tim get away with it, as a big-time hit happened against Quando's crew the following year. Right now, the search is on for 3 people who police say shot a Savannah rapper and a member of his entourage. It happened in Los Angeles, and cameras captured the aftermath, as the hit resulted in Quando's friend, Lil Pab, being taken out. The news captured the moment Quando found out, as he experienced the same pain that Van's friends did. This man, a passenger in that car, was frantic at the sight. But fans linked Dirk to the die or be taken down so violently. The whole scene changed. Fear replaced bravado. Quando started laying low, avoiding public appearances, and keeping his circle tight. But the damage was done. The hits, the losses, the headlines, they rattled everyone involved. Oblak's grip weakened, trust fractured, and what was once a dominant force in Chicago's streets started showing cracks. The echoes of King Von's death still lingered, a constant reminder that no one was untouchable. Fall into street life. Even something as simple as crossing the street to look at King Von's mural requires caution. Check it out. Walk over here and see this. Someone says, pointing to the mural. Levin, this Von picture I. No, there's a lot of opinions on this, but I'm letting y'all see where I'm at. Why is this black truck still right here? Man, watch that truck. Watch that truck right there. The tension is thick, a reminder that even in mourning, the streets don't let up.